Hello, if you've seen my last review video, which was the Harley Benton TE20HH, there was a pretty bad problem with it, and this problem seems to be with all the cheaper Harley Benton. That problem is earth bolts. Also, with any cheaper guitar, usually the setup is quite meh, so it is. So today I'm going to take you through how to solve earth bolts problems on your more budget guitars, and in the second part of the video I'll also take you through doing a cheeky little setup. There are some tools that you will need to do this, first being a screwdriver, a soldering iron and some solder, a multimeter. Those are the tools just for the earth bolts. Then for your setup, what you'll also need is a set of Allen keys, a little set of feeler gauges, neck radius gauges, a string action ruler, and also a fresh set of guitar strings as well, whatever gauge you like to use. We're going to strip this guitar first, and then we're going to have a little look at what's happening inside. Let's get close up and let's strip this down. Right, very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bridge off, because there is an earth wire that runs from here through the body and connects here to this bridge. Now, because this bridge is plated as well with this black paint, it can mean that the earth wire isn't making a really good connection to the actual metal of it, so we can score it with our screwdriver too while we're in there. I often find that this is the biggest culprit for earth bolts, so let's get strapping. Let's have a look, see. Right here you can see the earth wire, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a few scores along here and expose some of the metal. And also, while I've got this cavity open, I take some of my shielding tape as well, and I'm going to put a little bit of shielding in there. To stop the shielding tape curling up, take the back off the front, and that'll reduce it. It still will curl a little bit, but nowhere near as much if you do it the opposite way. Let me just show you. You get really curly. We want a little bit of this shielding tape to actually touch the bridge as well, so we just make a nice kind of cavity of protection. If this tape seems a bit fiddly, you can get shielding paint as well. So you just paint where I would be putting the shielding. Now it's time to reattach those screws. Make sure you don't lose your screws. So it could just be that because of the plating that's around this bridge, that the earth wire wasn't making a good connection. I'm going to open up this control cavity next, and we're going to resolder absolutely every earth wire, just to make sure there's nothing called a cold solder, which is a soldering joint that just doesn't make good contact. So we can see the black wire from the bridge is coming here. It is soldered to the back of a pot, soldered to the back of that pot. Here is another earth join here, to earth, and then this last earth here goes to the jack output, and then that goes down the earth of the jack. I have my soldering iron on, and temperature wise quite high, because this solder will be an absolute nightmare to melt. We're not really adding any new solder, we're more just melting this to make sure that it makes a good connection, but you can add a little bit of extra solder just to make sure it's cracking through. So hold your soldering iron over the joint, wait for it to heat up. You'll know it's heated up enough because all the solder underneath will turn to liquid. And add a little bit more solder in there just to make sure we're making a good connection. We'll move on to the next pot. Another handy way of checking your earth is to use a multimeter, and you're going to spin it round to where it has a little sound wave, and when I connect it to two pieces, we hear a beep, and that beep means that it's making an electrical connection. I've got my jack plug plugged in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to check everything and make sure it's running to the earth. The earth on your jack is there, and that is the hot. So that's your signal, and that's your earth. Yep. So I've checked under the bridge, I've got a good scratch so it makes a connection. I've checked all the other connections in the control plate, using the continuity function on my multimeter. So I'm pretty sure that if there's any buzz on this, it's literally just the bad electronics, which will be another video because you're gonna have to learn how to rewire a Telecaster. Let's get it rebuilt and let's get it set up. People who've never set up their guitar before really freak out whenever it comes to adjusting the truss rod. Don't. First of all, you have to find out what the radius of your guitar is. The TE20, that has a radius of 12 inches. If you don't know what it is, just look it up online. You should be able to find it somewhere. What you're going to do is you're going to put a capo on your first fret, and then on your low E string, you're going to push down on the fret where the neck meets the body. That's usually around 15 or 17. And then you're going to grab your radius gauges. So for a 12-inch radius neck, you're going to want to use a 0.01 inch feeler gauge, which is 0.25 mil in metric. And you're going to slide this in underneath the 8th fret, and you don't want the string to kind of lip up. You just want this to be like flush underneath the string, and you know you've got the appropriate spacing for that. Truss rods are really simple the way they work. It's righty tighty, lefty loosey. So if you're looking up the neck, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Towards you to tighten, away from you to loosen. And just to play it safe as well, just do about 1/8 of a turn every time. Don't be doing big mad turns, because you know that's whenever things go wrong, when you start going at it like a maniac. After we've done our truss rod, the next thing to do then is our string action, and that's where the string action ruler comes in handy. These are a couple of quid, they are magic. Use your little small Allen key in your saddles, and what you're going to do is you're going to lower the strings down. Now, a guide measurement for strings is your low E should be between 2 to 1.5 millimeters. Your high E should be about 1.5 millimeters to 1 millimeter. First of all, set your low E and set your high E. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to set the radius. So your strings are going to have to follow kind of like the curve of your neck, and that's where these radius gauges come in handy. Slot the appropriate size one underneath your strings and have the low E and high E touching each side, and then you can visually see the curve, so you can lower down your strings just to touch on that curve, and that should retain the radius of your neck and just make it really comfortable to play. At this point, I would give your guitar a wee play through. You might have tried to set it ultra low, and what's going to be holding you back is a thing called fret buzz. You'll be playing up and down the neck, and then suddenly you'll just get this nasty kind of, or just fret out. You might push down on the 10th on your E string, and really what comes out is the 12th on the E string. The problem there is all your frets aren't level. One of them's probably sticking up a little bit, so when you push down the string, it kind of arcs over that fret. We're not going to go into leveling frets in this video. I have a plan for a later video because it's a little bit So to get around that, you are going to have to raise your action slightly until you get rid of that fret buzz. So you've set your action, you've made sure you haven't got any fret buzz. The last thing to do is intonation. Intonation is making sure that your guitar is tuned basically the whole way through the neck. So if I play an open E and I play a fretted E in the 12th, they're both in tune. This means that if you're playing chords and then you switch to lead, that it just doesn't sound like horrible. Get your guitar and plug it into your tuner. I personally prefer to use the tuner in my DAW. You can use like your Boss tuner or a tuner pedal. I would not use one of the clip-on ones that clip onto your neck because they're not as accurate as they can be. So yeah, don't do that. Another wee trick as well for tuning is they roll off your tone and switch it to the neck pickup. That's going to cut out all harmonic frequencies that lead to inaccurate tuning. So for this process, you're going to need your screwdriver again. Play your open string, make sure it's in tune, and then you're going to fret at the 12th and play that. Some people say they play their harmonic. I do not know why you would intonate for the harmonic, because you're not playing harmonics up at the 12th. You're playing the notes, the fretted notes. There's a little phrase I use to help me with intonation all the time, and that's called fret flat forward. So if your string is flat when you fret it, move the saddle forward. If it's sharp, move it back. Okay, setup's done, and your guitar should be playing a lot better than it was before. Now, a little side note on noise in your guitar. If you're playing a single coil type of guitar like a Strat or Tele, you are going to suffer from noise a wee bit more than you are if you're playing with humbuckers. Saying that, all guitars are susceptible to noise. One way to get around that is installing noiseless pickups. Another way to get around that is to just use a noise gate live. Noise gates are pretty simple technology, so just buy a wee cheap one, it'll be completely fine. I hope you were able to follow along this video quite easily. If there's anything you would like extra explained, or if there's something else you would like me to do a video on, please drop it down in the comments. If you're starting to get into mod
modding, etc. I will be making more videos like this as well, so make sure you subscribe. But until the next video, ta-ta.